Hey guys, I'm Jay Allen. I'm here with Terrawise Solutions. Thanks for joining us today with TerraTalks. Joining us is Robbie. He's one of our support techs, sales reps, you name it, everything under the sun. Just kind of jump into it, if you would. Explain the TerraBlade and its true purpose and its functionality. What is it that's kind of setting us apart with that application?
Yeah, so the TerraBlade is an 8-foot wide, 6-way dozer blade skid steer attachment, coupled with dual wings, so you can have one wing forward in, one wing forward out, so you can catch and spill, 25 degrees of rotation. So without the wheels out front, as most people see, that's the first thing that you'll see right off the rip. As you look at a picture of it or see it out in person, there's no wheels out front like you see with other manufacturers.
Yeah, you see a lot of stabilized wheels.
That's right.
I know they're using those wheels, but I guess you're still maintaining that same kind of accuracy without that teeter.
That's right. Yeah. So without wheels out front, that allows us to be able to get into like a corner section of some curve and be able to go in right up to the edge of the curve and back drag out, still maintain the grade. But we're using a skid plate design, just rear of the blade, so you can actually stabilize our entire system. So
yeah.
That attachment weighs 3,000 pounds. It's robust if you can get, but with that setup there, with the skid plate, all the pressure is put there, so it eliminates the wheels that need to be out front. It's also 100% wireless, so attaching it to any machine is super easy. So you got a customer that just wants to rent a skid steer of any kind, they can just mobilize just the attachment.
Yeah.
So we don't have to have one machine married just to this attachment. It's 100% wireless. All we plug up is the hydraulics, get it powered, and we're good to go. Yeah. So, being that you have a TerraBlade now, Chad, what other things based off of what you saw in your first impressions that kind of pushed you towards the TerraBlade and its entirety?
Well, like you said to begin with, the big thing was there's no wheels out front. We run power rakes and stuff for buying, taking rock and stuff out, and those wheels on that will get in the way. So, being able to have the TerraBlade without the wheels, we can get up close. You don't have to worry about being in wheels. Having the heel, as you would say, the foot on it, lets the machine not teeter-totter. And that's always been a bad thing about trying to run any kind of dozer blade on a skid steer, because it's not a bulldozer.
Yeah. Is
with that foot on there is we load that, we put pressure on that, and then we're stable, so we can go.
Yeah, because it is kind of like a dozer, but it also has the functionality of a grader. It's got that lift tilt cylinders that allows it to operate independent from.
Yeah, and it's got dual cylinders on it for your vertical travel. So it's just like you were running a dozer tilting your blade.
Yeah,
you can do it all the same thing right there, and especially if you have to go into a manual mode. If you need to cut a spot in manual mode to say it's a little too high because it's a skid steer, it's not a bulldozer.
Do you find yourself doing that? Do you think?
As we ran it more and more, I found a lot of instances where I would go into manual mode and go slow. And the way it's set up, we're controlling the left lift with the left joystick buttons and the right lift with the right. And you can just rough out a spot to get it down to where you can go back into automatics and make it.
So you get to become a real operator, and then you get back into the digital world.
Because nobody's an operator now with all this machine control. So,
kind of one instance that we ran into immediately on the first job with Mexion, you kind of had a crazy retention wall going right up against the edge of the school.
Mm-hmm.
You had an implement that did have the wheels out front. I don't think you would have been able to complete that, or without the rotation that our blade had.
Right. We got the pivot. Not only do you got the tilt, left side, right side, vertical tilt, but we have the full pivot. And that exactly, because we had that wall right there, and we were putting a sidewalk right beside the wall, and it was in a curve. So we had to go in there. If we had wheels, it wouldn't have worked. We'd had to have 3-4 foot of space. But coming along the face of that wall, then we was able to rotate and dump the spoils off to the left.
Yeah.
And then get right in there. And in a couple passes, we just, kept offsetting and took it down, and we were ready.
Just tell us a little bit about your company, kind of what it is that you guys do.
Well, we do a lot of different stuff. We're pretty small nowadays, but last few years we've been doing a lot of sports field renovations. We're doing complete tear out, and then we do everything from the earthwork to the final grade, sidewalks, goal installs. So that's 100% turnkey
from start to finish. So what kind of, speaking about TerraBlade, what kind of got you into it? What put you on?
Well, on the last group that we just finished up, these fields were going to need to have a proper crown in them. So we needed to go from single slope to a dual slope option. So, you know, I wanted something different that we could go on a skid steer with and not use a box blade, you know, on a tractor. So
I got it. How'd you hear about it? Was this something that?
Yeah, was just doing a little research and seen the blade and really just liked the way it looked. And then a few phone calls later, we were up here and came up here to look at it, I believe, with you.
Yeah, I remember. I know you had a lot of questions that day. I think at one point, I think it might have been 4 hours.
It was at least 4 hours. I think we were 4.5 to 5 because I had one of my guys with me. I don't think he thought we was ever going to leave.
Yeah, I remember you guys came in and at the point you were thinking about laser. I had a bunch of different applications you were unsure about, and that's one thing I think that Terrawise is more so known about is consultation and making sure that we're picking the right solution and application. And at the end of the day, you end up going 3D versus the laser 2D platform. Do you think that was a good choice? Do you think?
I think it was probably the best choice we could have done because, like you said, we came up here that first day to put eyes on the blade. And I come up here thinking, 2D, a dual slope laser originally because I've had a solar slope for years and had the concept of, the GPS maybe. And then, like I said, after 4 hours or whatever, we realized we need to go 3D with the Robotic. So,
is there a functionality on the TerraBlade that kind of just stood out to you more than anything else? Because there's all kinds of different options in the small compact.
The biggest thing with TerraBlade is we didn't have to modify the machine.
Yeah.
So if the machine went down, even though we'd be pulling wiring out for our machine control purposes, we could put it on another machine more or less instantly. And it was just real robust looking. We was able to look at it up here and just, put eyes on it. It's heavy.
Yeah, that's one of the benefits for us with the platform. The way it's designed, the way the TerraBlade actually works is we're able to have a lot of stock, and we keep those pretty much ready and available. But the ability to attach to different machines pretty quick, I see that a lot of people like that, especially if it's rental. Someone comes up and says, "Hey, I want a TerraBlade. I only need it for about a couple weeks. We can put a 2D platform on it, plug and play to any machine within a couple minutes, and ready to go." So I think that's one of the big benefits that people are starting to see about it. What are some of the driving factors that lead you into the decision of actually going with it? Because I believe at the beginning, I remember speaking to you, and I feel like you're on the fence. That's why I drove a 4-hour conversation. But what was a lot of things that stood out to you? You said, well, when you sat home, you're at the house thinking about making this investment. That said, well, this is definitely.
Well, it was a real big investment. I pretty much decided when I got in my truck that it was, if we could do it, if we could figure out how to do it, then it was going to be a done deal. Looking at the blade and seeing, just like I said, how robust it was.
Yeah.
There's so much just lightweight junk out there that won't hold up, and this was heavy. And I've used a blade on a skid steer before, and it's real hard to run a blade on a skid steer. So with this blade, it was big. It loaded itself on the ground with what I call it the foot of it, and coupling it with the machine control. But mainly it was 3 hours of questions you answered for me. Because no matter what, if you are an owner operator, you've got to have service because it's, you're trying to do the job and learn a whole new software system, a whole new way of grading too. So the service, I made a lot of phone calls.
Well, I know that's a big thing that we like to do is just make sure people pick up the right platform. What do you think? Because I know in the past you've been very familiar with the 2D platform, lasers, sloping lasers, stuff like that. So now that you're in the 3D world on the skid steer, which is fully automated system, there's a lot more going on. What do you think the training was like? Do you think it was a little bit? Was it cumbersome? Do you think that it was easy to catch on to?
It's easy to catch on to, but it can be overbearing.
Yeah,
it's a lot to uptake. when you are running the job, doing the work, trying to deal with everything else, it's a lot to remember. It's just,
Yeah. So,
it gets easier, but we're still learning almost a year later.
and just point, how long have you had it?
We took delivery we came up here in June, I think it was, and we took delivery at the beginning of July, I think it was.
Yeah, because I know you two have spent quite a bit of time, so I'm just trying to think about the time frame that you think is pretty efficient.
So we're probably close to 8 months now.
Yeah.
He's had it on site.
Yeah, so that blade is already done over 9 acres of finished grade.
9 acres.
You figure 3 football fields with all the perimeter stuff of fine grade, plus right around a mile's worth of sidewalks that we've graded.
So you're not just doing the ball field, you're doing the sidewalks and layout with the equipment.
Yeah, that's part of the reason, too, of going with the robot.
Yeah,
was to be able to do all my own layout.
So just kind of speaking back into all the different applications that it's capable of achieving for you, what else outside of the ball field do you see yourself using it for?
Well, we've actually got a job coming up where we're going to kind of venture into setting some of the base placement for a parking lot. I'm looking out here seeing the parking lot right now. We're going to do all that base placement and final grade for them so they can do their asphalt.
I got you. And so as far as that, are you able to do that independently by yourself, or you have to what measures are you able to do a lot more by yourself? I see that you started to venture outside of the ball field with the layout application.
Yeah, having the robot let us do all of our layout in-house.
Yeah.
So before, we done 3 football fields a year before. Mm-hmm. So what would normally happen is I'd have to have a survey company come out. We'd set stakes out there in the ground, and then say, for instance, all the sidewalks, the bleacher pads we poured, all the concrete work, we'd have to have survey stakes, try to protect them while we're excavating, for, say, the sidewalks and bleacher pads, try not to destroy your survey stakes. And now with the robot, I don't even need to set a hub or anything because I can do the excavation by looking, with the TerraBlade in the machine.
Yeah.
See where my sidewalk is, go on and cut that down. And then we get into laying out the sidewalks. I do that myself now too, so there's no more setting up a laser and going off of each hub and calculating, okay, what's our cut and fill on this? What's the top of the floor wall going to be? We run it real time. As quick as the guys can follow me with pins, I can set the location and the elevation to form boards.
Yeah, this is kind of a question I love to ask people after having it for as long as you have now. It's the hardest thing you can really put to a number, but what would you say if you had to guess? What's your production rate after having it? What percentage-wise, if you had to throw a percentage?
Doing, let's just say, doing concrete layout, sidewalks and stuff like that, probably 75%.
75%? That's, yeah.
Because you're taking a lot of steps. Being we've combined it with the TerraBlade.
Yeah.
Yes, we're, like I said, we're taking so many steps out because you don't have to wait on somebody to come out and put hubs in the ground for you.
Yeah.
And then over dig. Any other time you're running these sidewalks, especially all ADA, we'd like this year, we did a 10-foot wide sidewalks.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of cut. If you're doing that, the old-fashioned way with the hub in the ground, get somebody on a laser, plus that's another man on the laser, over digging it, trying to get close, setting form boards. Oh, we're not hot. We're not low enough here. With it combined with the TerraBlade, I go in there, I wipe the ground out, and then we switch over to the robot and just start rolling.
So you pretty much at this point are self-sufficient, running the entire setup by yourself. I know you two, again, you guys have spent so much time together.
Yeah, me and Robbie, we talk a lot. I aggravated him a lot in the beginning. He aggravated me. There's a little bit of an age gap there, but we've done pretty good. We understand each other now. He's molded very well. He might have fought it a couple times, but he's molded good. And but yeah, that's one of the biggest things is, like I said, if you're owner operator, if you're out here running just yourself, you've got 100 things on your mind, and you go to do something you've actually only done a few times, and you won't remember how to do it. So that's where you need that quick phone call. And 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning when it's cold outside, hey, something's wrong here. And, with y'all's service and Robbie being on the phone, he can log into my system too and be able to look and find, okay, well, this is what's going wrong.
So you're using the Connex platform.
We're using the Connex.
That's to let viewers know that allows you to have, or Robbie or any of the other support guys to have that full support.
Exactly. It makes it easy. In the very beginning, once we had the 3D models made, Robbie actually loaded them into Connex for us. And then we come out there and we downloaded it right there on the job site into the tablet. And if I've got a question or something that he can connect in, I'll just hook the tablet to my phone and he can connect in from his laptop and solve problems.
So you're using it for the data aspect as well as you're using it for the training.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good. That's
real time. I mean, just a few weeks ago, like I said, on that one cold morning, we had an elevation issue. It come out to be a DWG file.
Yeah,
and it's 8 o'clock in the morning. It's cold. I'm trying to lay out 700 foot of sidewalk, and I got guys sitting there waiting, and my elevation's a foot off.
Yeah,
so I knew something was wrong. And called him, and within 5 minutes, he called me back. I had it ready, and he logged in, and that's where we found the deal.
So safe to say you've been taken care of.
I've been taken care of.
That's good. Well, we definitely appreciate you coming out here speaking with us today and kind of giving your insight. I know it's one of the pleasures to sell and support the product, but always to hear people.
Well, I appreciate y'all's support on it, because without support, you'll just throw it to the side.
Yeah, it's all about what you can get out of it. It's at the end of the day, it's a true return on it.
It is. It's a very, very expensive investment, and if you don't have the support, you get frustrated with it, and then you're not going to use it, and you're out a bunch of money.
So, kind of thinking about the application, what you're using it for, talking about how you were going around retaining walls, you're going from ball fields, you're using it in multiple applications, but what kind of tolerance? I know it seems like you require pretty tight specs. What's tolerance do you see on the attachment in itself? What are you achieving when you go check yourself?
We're trying to go with a 1/4 inch and less. I'll try to get as close as I can get it. And we're working on dirt, so that's, almost impossible to get it that close to the variation of dirt. If you were just doing a rock fill, you can get it tighter, but we're trying to shoot for that 1/4 inch.
The 1/4 inch, actually, then you're achieving that pretty easily.
Yeah, we're doing that because, like I said, we're doing the fine grading on the field itself, but we're doing all, for the concrete, we're using the TerraBlade to do the excavation for all the concrete. So the closer I get that base, the less money I got to have wasted in overages on concrete.
That's right. So, kind of speaking about all the different functionalities that it has mechanically, what are the applications that you see that people are mostly asking for, or what are the applications that they can attach to?
Yeah, so the TerraBlade is very versatile. Mostly all machine control platforms that most people are used to seeing. All of a sonic tracer, dual laser setup with 2 laser receivers on top of mast poles to be able to take over the blade. We can have a robotic system like that,
which is what you're.
We have even dual DPS, just like what most of your guys see nowadays. When people think machine control, first thing they think is GPS. That's most people's first initial thoughts.
And also all the way back down to nothing manual. Apparently, you use it manually, so you can use it just for the attachment within itself.
Yeah, running it manually, you need to run it real slow because it's hard to run a blade manually on skid steer. But if you run it slow and take your time, you can do some clipping with it.
Yeah. All right, so kind of after hearing the functionality of it and its platform and everything that it's capable of doing, on your side, do you feel that the costs associated to it, because at the end of the day, you've got to make a return on every investment that you have, being a business guy like yourself. Do you feel the cost associated to the product is reasonable, or?
Yeah, I do. It's a substantial investment, but when you take the TerraBlade and you combine it with the total station that we purchased from y'all also, then it lets me bring more stuff in house, because I'm able to now have my surveyor just put my controls in and to open the site up. And then once I set up on them, I'm putting my own controls in, but I'm able to bring all my staking from my sidewalks, in for doing the cut and fill, putting hubs when we were roughing out the fields. It just brings everything in the house that way. So over time, if you do several jobs, you're going to get that money back with what you're saving that you're not having to contract out.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I know Robbie's trained you on all the setup, and it's start to finish and how to get to where you're at now. What is that total time from setup to?
Normally, the very first setup on a job, it takes a little bit longer because I'm putting the surveyor's controls in the machine. But after that, on a daily setup, I'm normally set up in 10, 15 minutes.
Are you training with it?
Yeah. Once I go in and I go in and set the robot up in the morning time, and while it's connecting and everything, I take care of a couple other things, and then I'm ready to go hit my first couple controls. And now it's got just a little bit faster with the latest update we had with the AP20. We're able to use AP20 in our morning setup now and not have to get the bipod out and bubble up on our controls. Now with AP20, we just grab the stick and we go and just a few minutes it knocks off. And it gets faster. The more you do it, the faster you get. The first couple of weeks it seemed like a lot to do because you're learning so much, but now, 8 months later, it's pretty fast.
Yeah. After you being out there all the time and speaking to a lot of customers hand in hand and being on sites with people, what would you say would be one of the biggest concerns that you see that people have about the attachment?
Yeah, so probably the first thing I get asked with this attachment, being that there is no stabilizing wheels out front, immediately they hear about the weight, it being 3,000 pounds, and the first thing they ask me is, do I need a counterweight on the rear of my machine from tilting or rocking back forward? But thankfully, with our skid plate design and where it's actually placed and located, it eliminates the need for an extra counterweight machine. Chad, now that you've had yours for 8 months, if you want to kind of talk about the same thing, if you kind of had that exact same concern when you first laid eyes on it. And
right, like you say, it's a heavy attachment. It is 3,000 pounds. It's a very robust blade. I was, at first I was worried about getting some porpoising because that happens anytime anybody that's ran an old dozer blade on a skid steer knows that they want to dive plane on you.
Yeah.
But having that skid plate on TerraBlade, we actually load a little bit of pressure on that, and that balances your machine out. Now, I'm using a 333G, so I've got a big machine. I would not run the TerraBlade on a little tiny machine for sure. But, if you didn't have a 12,000 pound machine, if you run an 11,000 pound, 10,000 pound machine, you could run some counterweights then. But on the bigger machines, you just don't need it because you're loading the pressure on that blade and you're stabilizing your machine.
Yeah, so you're not getting any kind of rocker balance.
Right, you don't get all that. And that also lets you put it on a lot tighter tolerance,
Yeah. So I know training's kind of been a bigger part for you in a lot of different videos I've noticed you've been making, as well as our company's been putting out a lot of other videos. I know you've made quite a bit, put it on social media. If you go to our website, you can actually see the link to our YouTube channel. We've got a lot of training videos, and it doesn't necessarily pertain only to the TerraBlade, but the TerraBlade has a bunch of different videos as well as applications from sonic to laser to robotics, GPS, you name it, it's out there. Well, I'll see a lot of your videos, and it shows you definitely use it.
We'll learn. Another year or so, and we should be even better.
That's good. Again, we appreciate it. Thank you for coming out.
All right.
Yep.